Hi, my name's Mike and welcome to my Allotment UK. I got some good comments last week, very encouraging, but I also got some comments that were word of mouth from people that know me in the village that watched the video, and they said to me, Mike, you are allowed to smile, you know, so I've got to remember to smile. Though in my defence I have to say that the lighting was rather harsh. It was my third attempt. It was late at night and I was getting a bit tired. But there we go. So this isn't really what I've been doing this week. It's really a continuation of the previous week, going straight through. And as I said last week, the work that I did on the plot while I was doing the gate latch, I would add on to this week. And the main task of the allotment this week, similar to last year, because I've been looking at October last year and I'm running about 4 weeks behind. Now I did some catch up after the electricity board put the cable in March. The COVID-19 has obviously had an influence which has restricted me really to the 2 hours per day, because I don't really want to be leaving my wife all day on her own. It's the part of being together. It is so that we don't get the mental strain of being apart, not seeing anybody. And the other thing, of course, was breaking the entrance card into the electronic gates, which, as I said last week, I've now got replaced. But I'm still trying to catch up, and it's a question of clearing the site, clearing the beds and getting them ready for next year. And I started doing the stripping of the runner bean bed. Two reasons for that is that I grew some potatoes in the runner bean bed. Sounds a bit of an oxymoron, but what I did is last year in September, it was not October, September, I dug a trench down the centre and I put in kitchen waste, and this was a success. It improved the worms, and I also did this on bed 4, and I've already harvested those potatoes, and these potatoes are the skins that were in the kitchen waste. They've given a decent crop. Now I got this for when I was around about 7-year-old, and I used to go to the allotments to collect the vegetables, and the allotmenteers on the allotment, because it was shortly after the war and there was food rationing, that's the way that they grew their potatoes, from potato skins or even chips. They would cut lumps off potatoes which had the seeds, and they would sow those. So that's what I did, and it's quite an economical method of growing potatoes, because you've paid for the potatoes at Tesco or Aldi or Sainsbury's, wherever. You've got the variety that you like, and you put the peelings in there. Now they've cost you so much a pound, but of course the trench that you put in gives you more potatoes than you put in, so that's got to be a win-win. The other thing is that I had some potatoes that I bought from the garden centre, and I only had enough for, I think it was seven buckets, and I normally have at least 16 within there, and I planted those. And then I noticed that the buckets where I was storing compost to reuse elsewhere, they were sprouting potatoes. And with COVID-19 I couldn't get any more potatoes, and the garden centres were closed and you couldn't get any by post, or if you ordered some by post you was waiting weeks for them. So I thought, well, at least I've got the 8 pots, the earlies, and I've got these that are growing from the compost, volunteers so to speak, and then I've got the ones with the potato skins growing in bed 12 and bed 4. But last week when I was doing one of the pots, I suddenly found that it had got scab, and the scab was pretty bad. And Mrs. B doesn't like scab, even though I tell her it's not harmful and you can scrape it off or you can peel it and it's no detriment. She won't have them. David took them. He'll have anything. No, sorry David. That was, he did me a favour. He took them off me so they haven't been wasted. But I thought, well, I'd better start going into this. I'm going to get all the potatoes harvested and let's see what we've got. And as I say, they fell into 3 categories. Those out of the trench, those that are volunteers, and those that were done in the buckets. So let's see how we go. Now let's answer this telephone. That was David on the phone there. He was at the garden centre. He was asking me whether I'd got my autumn sown onions yet and did I want any. Let's get back to it. So we've got 2 problems. We've got the problem of scab and we've got the problem of the brown markings that are like a rot mark on the earlies. Now the earlies, that's the easiest one to deal with first because that was fresh compost and I had been harvesting them and they were okay, but what I did, I thought they're probably safest within the buckets, and I'm wrong, because if I'd have harvested and bagged them up they would have been okay, but by leaving them in the buckets and getting all the weather, and we had the hot weather and then we had the rain, I reckon that's why they've deteriorated. Some of them are still usable and you can cut the brown pieces off and it doesn't seem to make any difference, but it's a shame and I won't let that happen again. Now with the scab, that's due, or can be due, there's quite a number of reasons which I'll list out. One is that it's a bacteria that can be in the soil, and the pH of the soil for potatoes really needs to be 5.5 pH. I will check that on there, and at the moment it's 6.5. So soil needs lime, and that will get rid of scab or reduce it. Also, if you've gone through a very dry period, which we have, June, July were very dry, and then it became very wet. So that's 6.5. And I think that's the main reason why I've got scab. It's old compost, and it's just been left to dry out, and that's created the scab. So I won't be doing that again. And the thing is, I only allowed those volunteers to grow because I was short of potatoes, but normally all my buckets will be taking up different types of potatoes. Early Nadine on there, which is really my favourite potato, but there's the King Edwards and the rest of them that would go in. And as far as the potato skins, I can see no reason why not to continue that. And though I said earlier you get more potatoes than what you bought, and that is true, so that's got to be cost effective. So that's really the solution on the scab. Right, I mentioned that David had asked me about my autumn sown onions. I haven't done the autumn sown onions as yet, and I just want to show you that when I was looking into my records, it is exactly a year ago that I actually put the onions into soil blocks ready to sprout up to be planted out. So I should be doing that anytime now. Now harvests have been fairly good. I've had black kale and I'm continuing with the beetroot, and I inspect the row and get the progression, and you can see which ones are getting large enough, and I pull them out, and when I come back next week there'll be some more right size. So I've really cracked the succession rate on the beetroot. Thank you for watching. Please comment. I mean they were great last week with the comments. Keep those comments coming. Ask questions of how I do things, why I do things, because I'm not certain that I'm making everything clear. And if you've not already done so, please subscribe to get further updates. Then what I ask is that you ring that bell, and it just leaves me to say thank you for watching, take care of yourself, and bye.